everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Printing's Alive, exciting podcast where we will talk about everything print. Today we have a special guest. We have G. Ranasinha of Kexino. G sounds like a fascinating guest. He's the founder and CEO of Kexino, a marketing agency that helps small, medium-sized businesses with creative, effective branding strategies. With over 25 years experience working with brands like IKEA, Marvel, Time Magazine, he's got a wealth of knowledge to share. And on top of that, he's a visiting professor in France, teaching MBA students about marketing and behavioral economics. Pretty cool stuff, right? Right. Hey, G, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Warren. Thanks for inviting me. Delighted to be invited.
Well, have to invite you. You're a good guest.
There you go. Yeah.
And you speak of a lot of things that are really interesting, and I wanted to just, you know what? Actually, tell us a little bit about you before I get into this.
Well, you've done a pretty good job. We're a small business marketing, branding, media production, and behavioral science agency. We're 17 years old. In that time, we've worked with around 400 startups and small businesses to help them increase their awareness, reputation, trust, but most importantly, sales. Because sales is the name of the game, right? You know, if it doesn't move the needle, it's not marketing, it's fluff, right?
Well, without sales, there's no company. And it doesn't matter what you do.
And the thing is, there's too many people within marketing who get on their high horse and think they're above sales, right? But it's every single person's job within the company to position and be an advocate for the organization from a sales perspective, right? Marketing is selling. And if you're in marketing and you have a problem with that, you should get out of marketing, because that's the whole point of it. Because it's sales was what pays your salary. It pays all our salary, right?
I agree. And I think on the marketing side, it really is the whole company, because if the whole company isn't doing what they're doing, the marketing person doesn't have a job.
Well, not just that. You know, the responsibility of marketing isn't just the marketing manager or the marketing director. The responsibility of marketing is across the entire organization. Anybody who faces a customer, either face-to-face or virtually, is directly or indirectly creating a perception in the mind of that customer. So they are marketing.
Love it. Okay, I want to jump right into something that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about in the world of print. And, that is you study behavioral science, right? What is behavioral science for people who have only heard the word but don't really know what it is?
Okay. Behavioral science or behavioral economics, or, it's just really a rebranded word of psychology. It's customer psychology. In the old days, marketers who were any good were good because they understood their customer. They understood the buying drivers, the levers that they needed to pull in order to influence a buying decision, which is primarily emotional rather than rational. What's happened over the years is we've lost sight of that, and we've tried to make marketing into some kind of engineering, financial, economic model where 1 + 1 always equals 2. And we can predict the same result regardless of the context or the frame of mind that the customer is in at the point of buying, which is clearly total and utter rubbish. Because you think of your own experience when you're purchasing something, there are a lot of influences which are anything but logical, anything but rational, but they do influence the way that you buy things. The problem is that many of these influences are hard to measure. Some of them are pretty much impossible to measure. So since businesses are looking to create an efficiency-driven model where we can run everything by the numbers, variables which can't be easily quantified or exchanged between people are dismissed. So what happens is we have a logical-driven, rational-driven approach by numbers, which is less effective, but is looked at by senior members of the organization as being valid because it is logical and pragmatic and, engineering in its output, Newtonian physics in its output. 1 + 1 is always 2. The problem is we're dealing with human beings, and human beings are not logical, rational entities, right? So if you were looking at a part of the business, supposing we're looking at manufacturing, or you're looking at R&D, or you're looking at finance, or whatever, okay? Each part of that system is a known quantity and is, and is using units of measurement which are interchangeable. We all know what those measurements are. Like if you're talking about manufacturing, for instance, right? A kilogram is always a kilogram, right? Regardless of whether you're talking about print or you're talking about engineering or you're talking about physics or you're talking about
Weight is weight,
right? It's always, right? Temperature, 100 degrees Celsius is always 100 degrees Celsius, right? All of these things are known and easily communicable variables. When we get into marketing, some of the variables that we're talking about are not easily communicable and are difficult to measure, right? For example, buyers can be influenced, their purchase can be influenced by things like fear, regret, anger, right? I mean, the entire insurance industry is powered by fear, right?
Death and the misery.
These are very strong emotional drivers which influence a buying decision. So by relying totally upon rational pragmatism in our methodology for marketing, which follows through into the customer-facing communications of marketing, we get to the point where we have today, where we're spending more and more. We've got all of this new technology, right? We've got customer segmentations, retargeting tags, cookies, AI, all of this stuff. Yet the effectiveness of marketing is falling off a cliff. So why is that? Because what we're producing is utter crap and is instantly forgettable. The most important part of marketing at the end of the day, if you distill it down, all we can do as marketers is form memory structures in the brain of a potential buyer so that when they are in market to buy whatever we are selling, we are one of the possible options that they will consider. That's all we can do, right? But what we're producing is generic vanilla spam, right? And you've seen it 100 times before. You take 2 pieces of marketing output, whatever it means, brochures or ad or whatever, okay, from 2 different companies, 2 different businesses in the same category. And if you covered up the logos of those companies, the communication is almost interchangeable, right? They're
Correct.
all saying the same thing, which is a very dangerous place to be, right? Everybody wants to walk in the middle of the road, but walking in the middle of the road is where you get squished, right? You walk on the left or you walk on the right. And everybody's trying to be this generic, inoffensive entity hoping that the prospect will join the dots themselves, which they never will, right? Because they don't care, right? Or if the object of the exercise is to be remembered at the point of being considered to purchase, then where we're going wrong is we're not being remarkable. And by remarkable, I don't mean remarkable, I mean remarked upon to the point where we are standing out. Let me give you an example. Okay. Super Bowl every year. Okay. We have usually the day after the Super Bowl, if you're in anything to do with media, there will be 101 blog articles and YouTube videos about the best Super Bowl ads.
Sorry,
Right?
which, by the way, a few years
Yeah.
ago, they started releasing them all before the Super Bowl. There was no wait.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Because they needed to warm up the audience, right? So the best Super Bowl ads of whatever year, okay, are the ones which are a little bit out there, right? There is some dimension which the customer sees as having merit, which is different compared to the other ones in their category. Okay, it may be a gecko when you're talking about insurance, okay, or whatever it may be. But they all, frogs.
I always like the Dorito commercials.
Right. There's something either funny, ludicrous, makes you laugh, makes you happy, makes you angry, or but it invokes an emotional reaction. And that's the secret. That's the secret sauce that we've missed. It's the stuff we used to know. Right? Marketers and advertisers in the day used to know that to form strong memory structures involves emotion. You think about it. How many times you're driving along in your car and you're listening to the radio, okay, and a song comes on the radio and you're instantly transported back to a time and place, and you're surrounded by a certain group of people, and you can almost touch the environment, right? It's a very strong memory, okay? Now, that memory is not created by bullet points. That memory is created by a strong emotion, usually a happy emotion in those sorts of cases, which those memories come flooding back when you hear that song, especially if you've heard the song for ages. Another one is smell. You get the smell, and the same thing. It just conjures up all of these memories for you, right? What are we doing in marketing? We're doing nothing. We're writing a bunch of bullet points and expecting the customer to do the work.
Right. So now, perfect segue into print.
Okay.
Right? Because print, we do all the stuff. The print industry, we take care of all the marketing stuff, communications for all those other companies. We're working with marketers. I want to know from a behavioral science perspective, and I did not study science in any way, shape, or form. I just learned how to spell the word science. Why do printers do what they do or not do what they do? I think we know what we should do. We hear every day what we should do. There's a lot of companies doing what should be done to be able to put your business out there, to be remembered. I'm more interested in the ones that are doing nothing and that are wondering what's happening, and then complaining, for lack of better wording. And then what happens is then they get into panic mode, and then they start lowering prices, doing things, giving things away, and making a whole ton of other bad decisions as a chain reaction. Why?
The thing is, within the printing industry, in terms of printing companies, printing businesses, there are a ton of printing businesses who know what they're doing, who are getting it right. Of that, there is no doubt.
Correct.
However, I would say at least 70%, maybe even higher, of printing companies haven't got a clue what they're doing, even though, as you just mentioned, they are exposed to some of the best marketing output in terms of what their customers are producing. You'd think that it would be an easier way to up their game, right? The problem with printing companies is not specific to printing companies. It's a problem with many companies within many industries, and it's twofold. From one side, we're recruiting people who call themselves marketers who are not marketers. And we are recruiting them based upon what we think we want them to do as marketers. But we are not marketers ourselves. Okay? The thing is, if we're recruiting an accountant or a CFO, okay, we don't know about balance sheets and P&Ls and EBITDAs and forecast projections and this sort of thing. We don't know how to actually do it.
But we know they do.
But we're paying them for their experience and expertise to do it. Okay? We think marketing is a sales support role, because what we actually see, the 1/10 that's above the waterline of that iceberg, is tactical output, brochures and events and stress balls and tote bags and other crap, which is a tiny percentage of what marketing is actually about. So we're recruiting the wrong type of person, number one, because we think marketing's promotion. When marketing is a hell of a lot, and promotion is part of marketing, sure. Yes. All promotion is marketing, but not all marketing.
But promotion only is used once you know who you are and what your brand is.
100%, exactly. There's a ton of work you need to do before you get to the tactical stuff, which the people who call themselves marketers who are not haven't got a clue about doing. And the people who are recruiting them didn't even know this sort of stuff existed. Right. So that's half the problem. Half the problem is we're bringing the wrong type of people in to help us with our marketing. The other problem...
Hold your thought for 1 second, if you can, because just something happened the other day, and it wasn't about marketing. It had to do with HR. And somebody reached out to me and said, would you have a few minutes for a chat? I'd like to get your take on some HR and maybe where we should be looking and what we should be doing to hire someone, because our HR department is using this, this, and this. And my reaction was, are you kidding me? Wait a second. You're calling me to ask me what I think you should be doing because what you're doing isn't, right. I said to him, and I basically said, I think you need to fire your HR department. And are you prepared to pay me? Because why are you calling me? You have a department. And, like marketing, there's so much of left and right, doesn't know, doesn't agree. And, it's like back to marketing. So what do you do? Because you got to start fixing these things. You have the wrong people with the wrong mindset leading the troops.
I think there is, at the very heart of it, and I sort of alluded to it earlier on, at board level, at senior management level, I think there is an inherent distrust in marketing. Okay? There was a Harvard Business Review article a few years ago, and I can't remember the exact percentages, so you forgive me if I'm a little bit off here.
Age.
But, well, you know what to do. So age is, memory's the second thing to go, right?
What's the first?
I can't remember.
Better you don't.
Right, no. So, they did a survey with CEOs of companies of various sizes, and more than 70% of them were unhappy with the performance of their CMO. Okay?
Interesting.
While when they asked the same question about how these CEOs felt of their CIO or their CFO, the amount of CEOs who were unhappy with the performance was less than 12%. So there's a huge gap in between. And the reasons are numerous, but one of the biggest reasons, I think, is us as marketers. Because when we're talking to senior management, C-suite level people, we try to bamboozle, we try to use all of this jargon that we use within of ourselves, right? So we'll talk about salience and ESOV and mental availability and all of this stuff, which
I have no idea what
finance
you're talking
people,
about.
economics, engineering type people haven't got a clue, and nor would they, right? Why would they? Unless they're marketers, there's no reason why they would do. Okay, marketers need to speak the language of business, which is the language of finance, but we don't speak board, which is why we're laughed out of the boardroom half the time. Because we're looked upon as we'll start talking about, we got some, we got loads of likes and tons of ebook downloads and page views have gone off the scale. And everybody says, well, great, that's wonderful, congratulations. But what does that mean, right? What can I use to attribute this to sales? What marketing effort or efforts or series of efforts can be attributed to company revenue compared to, and that's the important thing, doing nothing? Would we have got that uptick anyway for whatever other reason? But marketers don't do that. They don't do that bit, right? There needs to be a compared to element in all of this, which marketers conveniently forget about. So as a result, and the other thing is marketers use terminology, finance terminology in marketing, which is not the way that finance people, like ROI. Right. You talk about ROI to a finance person as a marketer, it'll laugh you out of the boardroom. It's ridiculous, right? It's a totally different argument. So it debases our professionalism and our reason to be sitting at that room table.
So, perfect example that just came to mind is when I think about Shark Tank, that show in the show in the US where you have 5 different entrepreneurs on there that are very successful in business, all come from different businesses. And then you have people coming on to present what they do. And the way in which they present, it's a bit of marketing. But what the people sitting on the couch want to know is they want the real numbers. They want to know how you're getting there. They want to know what you're doing to get there, right? And how you're going to stay there, as opposed to the fluff and the excitement, because the fluff and the excitement wears off quickly, right? It's
like I said right at the beginning, unless there is a straight line that we can draw between what we're doing in marketing and the effect on the bottom line of the business, then we have no reason to be there. Because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what success looks like because we're measuring it in this little bubble. And we're saying, okay, yeah, we got 2,000 likes this week compared to 1,500 likes last week. That means we're growing. Well, no. What do the sales look like?
Well, right? I was going to say...
on the other side, there is inertia, okay? What we do in marketing today, we don't see the results instantly, okay? It may take months or even longer before we see results. And equally, the reason why we're in the state that we're in today is a result of marketing that we've done, accumulated over time.
Or lack of.
Or lack of, either positive or negative. Okay? So the point is that marketers, especially if they're in a senior position, are being tasked to turn around the fortunes of the business, generally within a quarter or two, because businesses are working on a quarterly based reporting structure where they're coming back to shareholders or the board or both. And since there is this latency between cause and effect, it's no wonder that the average tenure for a senior marketing executive in corporate America is 14 months.
Interesting.
And why CEOs are so unhappy with their CMOs.
Interesting. So let's look now. Take a printing company, and not a big one, because there are, like we said before, the good companies. And I'll mention one name that comes to mind because really I think they do a smashing job, and I met all the people; they're great. But like a company like Hatteras, Bill Doerr, they've got little videos going out. They've got different people within the company talking, so it's giving you that team feeling. But more importantly, they come out with solutions that actually work. They come out with, processes and ways to get things done for the client. And that's why their clients keep coming back. That's why their clients keep trying them when they bring in new services, because they market themselves, and the way they market themselves, they live up to it. And I believe that they were living up to it before they started marketing themselves. So it was really a way to go. But with other companies, what do you think other companies, if they're listening, what should they be thinking about marketing? And what should they be thinking about in terms of starting off marketing their company? I could tell you that when I started with mine, I didn't really know what I was doing in the beginning. I just happened to fall into it and get lucky, because we started off with a video that everybody saw that went crazy. And, my head grew a little big at the beginning, and then it got deflated because there was no money coming from it, but there was a lot of fame coming from it. And then after I learned to take that video and tie it into what we were doing, to the excitement, the fun, good company, bring all the people around. Then then I thought about, having certifications, sustainability started. So I went out and had us certified for all the certifications, and then Pantone. Part of my thinking was this: I learned branding, or what the brand should be, but I started thinking, again, no education. I just came to me on my own. Oh my God, I want to do all these certifications for two reasons. One, I want to put it out there that we're sustainable, or that we believe in it. And then the other thing I did with it was it was internal marketing. Instead of asking your people to work harder, instead of always setting KPIs with numbers that make people nervous about their jobs, I talked about, folks, what we're doing here is seen on the outside. How we're seen on the inside is how we'll be, received on the outside. So we're doing these certifications. We got to step it up. We should have high marks. We should have everyone talking about us. So I kind of or tried to give everybody on the inside a purpose to take ownership, to be proud of what we were doing, right? And then when you go outside with it and you match it together, you've got everybody rolling down the same page. And that came about, though, by practice and a little bit of luck. And then I did find out that after years of being continuous, you start to hear things about your company, that we were authentic, that we were fun, that people would come and they enjoyed their visits, because we tried to make the visits enjoyable. And I know a bunch of companies, like I mentioned, Hatteras and others, that do that. But for the most part, I don't see that. I see a lot of frustration in companies, and I see a lot of people selling marketing to companies, but I don't always necessarily agree it's the right way to go about it. What do you recommend people do to start that don't know?
There's a number of problems here. Firstly, the mediocre, vanilla, generic marketing that's being produced by the vast majority of printing companies is as a result of not inaction, not knowing what to do. It's because of fear of doing the wrong thing. But if you are truly authentic as an organization, within and without, like you were in your organization. I mean, okay, right. Now, that video, it's nearly 20 years old now, right? It was
shy of it, but we
15,
have time.
15 years, maybe more, ahead of its time, right? Why haven't we seen that kind of virality video in the print industry ever since? There hasn't been anything, okay?
Because you can't recreate me. No, I'm just
No.
kidding.
There's
You don't want to
only one of
recreate
you.
me. Yeah.
There's only one Warren, and thank goodness there is. Only one, that is. The point is that most printers are still living in the days when all they had to do was put an open sign on the door and people would walk in. So marketing has never been a systemic, integral part of the value creation chain for their company. So this is all alien to them. Not all of them, of course not. But what the issue is, I think, is that they know they need to be differentiated. But what they're doing is they're coming up with this generic communication that while the successful printing companies, not all, again, I have to make sweeping generalizations, are focusing around problems, end user problems, their customer problems, and how their company, or maybe not even their company, addresses those problems. They're not talking about, I mean, I still have today large printing companies whose sales force want a kit list to be able to wave under the nose of their prospects. They want to say, here, look, we've got the latest Okie Kokie 2000 machine, and it does this and it does that, and it's got this many units, and it's got all these finishing, and we've got this kind of, all this nonsense. And they're still talking. You know, it's like if you talk to an R&D person about a product and you ask them what the product does, they'll give you all of these mathematical formulas and everything else about how the thing works. But nobody, with the greatest respect, nobody apart from these guys gives a stuff. I don't care about how it works. I care about what it does for me. And that's
Right.
not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that. We're talking about number of colors, finishing options, binding options, all very chapter and verse, very pragmatic, very logical, very rational. But we're not talking about what motivates the customers of our customers to buy, and that is here. This is emotion.
Yes. So I'm trying to contain myself. So there's something that makes me crazier than crazy in the world of print. And for every print owner out there, please listen. For every salesperson who works for a company, for what I'm about to say, you need to listen because you need to go to management. Stop with your equipment on your websites. I've been scanning websites lately, and I'm angry. I'm really angry, and I'm frustrated because I'm scanning websites and I'm seeing equipment. Never mind seeing brand new state-of-the-art equipment. I'm seeing equipment with powder, old equipment, old presses. I'm looking what the companies are writing, and all they're talking about is me, 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 me. And not one person, well, on some of the sites, talks about the solution for the customer, right? Salespeople, I just got to go off on this because I'm freaking out. I go on all kinds of people's LinkedIn web pages, salespeople. First of all, why is your contact information not in there? If I'm looking for you and I'm hot to trot and there's no email or phone number, guess what? You are done, and I am not coming back because I don't have the attention span for that. And if you're going to have an email, put your company email, not your Gmail, because then I think you're looking for a job and I don't want to work with you either. Like, really makes me nuts. And then I'm looking for a salesman person, and I go to the about, and the about is, oh my God, it's just not even about anything. I don't know where they come up with that. So folks, go back, look at those little things, change it up, make me want to talk to you. Give me some tidbit about you. Give me a little bit about how you operate. And I don't care about your degree, and I don't care about where you worked. Talk to me one-on-one. Sorry. And I won't even get into the company LinkedIn pages, but that's a big bad start for everybody.
We used to have a guy on our team years ago at the agency who had a perfect aphorism that we used to use throughout the company, and used to use it too many times. It became a joke, actually. And what he used to say is, nobody cares how good you used to be. Right?
Tell me about
Nobody
it.
cares. Nobody cares. So, we've been in business for 25 years. Okay, great. So does that mean that you're half as good as somebody who's been in business for 50 years? What does it mean? What does that actually mean? Right? We've got this amount of employees. We've got 5 offices. What does that mean? How does that help me? I don't care. Right? Can you deliver my job to spec by this time next Friday? Yes or no? That's all I care about. And if on top of that you can give me your opinion, advice, recommendations about how to improve the effectiveness of what I'm trying to do, then that's your value add. I'm going to come back to you as opposed to going to somebody else down the road. But we don't start with that. We start with a position of trying to look like everybody else. Yes, we have the same equipment as the person down the road. Feature-based differentiation is gone. You can't win anymore by selling on features, any features, because you have such a small window of opportunity before everybody else catches up and they do the same thing.
Well. By the way, today, if you go back years ago, yes, different equipment had more benefits than others. But today, I will say this, okay? All the digital presses out there, they're all good. They all do great CMYK, or they would not be on the show floor to begin with. Then you have some that are quicker. Some that add a little bit more color gamut. And there's a customer base for that. Really, but the equipment is good. And most customers today don't really give a rat's ass what you're printing on, don't understand what you're printing on, and don't even care what you're printing on. The same way when it comes to paper, the majority of customers today don't even spec you a brand. In the old days, it was always, I want Sappy, I want Flow, right? I want something high end. I can go back to Plainfield days of offset. Today, it's I want a coated, I want an uncoated, I want a bond, right? Unless you're dealing with an agency, a designer, unless there's a real reason for a particular look because they're trying to appeal to different people in different markets that they know, the average printer doesn't get requests by name.
And I think you're absolutely right. On so many fronts, the war's been won. Okay? We don't have huge variations in color output anymore, right? Even in offset. Doesn't happen anymore. Okay? Technology, engineering tolerances, software, all of these things have minimized that variation tolerance. Plus, we've got print buyers who are experienced around a different set of values, let's say. They're coming at it from an RGB mentality because their first point of marketing output is digital. Now, that doesn't mean print doesn't have a point, because that's the reason why they're in your print shop. But we're not talking the language of these digital natives, right? We're throwing up blocks, obstacles, creating friction by saying, oh no, if you want to do that kind of mailer in print, then I'm going to need to have the Excel sheet 3 days in advance so that I can put it in my software and do the parsing and do. No, I'm sorry. Those sorts of things, that's an internal problem of your systems or lack of, right? Because as far as these digital first print buyers are concerned, they're expecting the ease of interaction with your organization as they do with anything that they deal with in the digital world. And we're not doing that. We're throwing up these blocks for no reason. Oh, but you don't understand because, you know, the finishing is going to add at least another day and a half. Well, why? Hang on. Why should it? I don't understand. They don't want to understand. They don't need to understand. So we need to stop talking about the restrictions of a mechanically driven system as being an idiosyncratic part of that process where the digital natives need to adapt to, because we're the ones who need to adapt, not them.
Listen, remember when all the in the old days, it was you would get a file and you were doing Ruby lists and you were cutting out stuff and color keys and chromolins and all of that, and then the PDF started and people just thought it was anything, and then you were getting publisher files to print out that you couldn't print out. Today, it's really easy and easier, and there's all this software. You can't talk to your customer the same way that we used to. You can't beat them up, so to speak, the same way, right? It's more you have to take it in and, massage it and do some of the stuff yourself that you know to correct it and make it right. Because some people I see, they stand there, well, if you don't give it to us, we can't do it. Well, okay, I'll go to the other guy. We're not so adaptable. We might think we are, but we're not so adaptable in dealing with them and understanding where they are. I still hear a lot of bitching. There's always going to be bitching about customers, because I don't think in any industry anybody likes their customers. I mean, when they're getting good orders, they are. But in the process, there's a lot of work to do.
From what you've said, I think many people who'll be listening to this will say, "Well, hang on, this is all eating into my margin, right? If I'm gonna fix stuff which I'm theoretically not getting paid for, right? That's on me. And certainly if it goes wrong, that's doubly on me." And I totally understand that. But that's where this customer education stuff comes in, right? Our job is to make our customers look good, right? And if we can do that with opinion, advice, and recommendations and say, look, you've set this up like this, right? Firstly, stop sending us damn Canva files, right? It used to be publisher files. It used to be PowerPoint files. Okay. Today it's Canva files or
but
whatever.
Hang on. If you're going to use Canva actually has a tie-in with Marksware for pre-flighting to properly, review and set your files up before you send them on, because even Canva's acknowledged that there's a problem with people working
absolutely.
with them.
But
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that.
But the average Canva user
doesn't want to spend
wouldn't be aware of that.
Right.
It wouldn't be aware of that. So like I said, our job is to make them look better than they are. Okay. And if we do that, if they see that we've got their back, then they'll keep coming back to us, right? Because as far as they're concerned, any B2B relationship, what you're selling, number one, is trust. But secondly, what you're selling is a way for your customer to move up the corporate ladder, right? If you can help them get a promotion, they're going to love you forever. Because that's what we're doing in B2B.
Well, I also think that more people have to reflect upon their own lives, on what they do, what they like, what makes them happy. You always go to the same restaurant, right? The restaurant owner welcomes you. He remembers your name because you've seen it. He's seen it on the reservation so many times. He's talked to you. You go there regularly. Every now and again, you sit down. He will bring you a drink that you didn't order because he knows, right? What does that do? Makes you feel good. Makes you feel like this is your restaurant. right? You do the
I
meals.
think the restaurant industry, there is parallels between the restaurant industry and the printing industry, because
they got the
there's
hang
two
of it.
extremes of restaurant industry, right?
No,
If you
but
class McDonald's as a restaurant,
no.
okay,
First, I'm not talking
but
McDonald's because they don't serve
but
drinks.
you can
Right.
because the thing about what McDonald's is not selling you a superly highly nutritious meal. What a McDonald's is selling you is predictability. You know
Correct.
that what you're getting, even in a really dodgy part of town, right? Your burger and fries and whatever you've ordered is going to be
Consistently awful.
pretty
Yes.
much what you can experience wherever you've eaten McDonald's, right? And there are some print groups who operate on that model. Okay, they're looking for stolid consistency, the user experience being very rational, logical, and pragmatic. Okay, and that works. But you're playing the numbers game now, right? You need to have an enough going into that funnel to be able to maintain the operational costs and profit margins that you're working on that business. The other end
Correct.
of the restaurant argument is fine dining, Michelin star type thing, right? Where, yes, of course, the food has to be good. Yeah, okay, no brainer. But the majority, I would contend, of the experience you have at the restaurant isn't the food. It's everything else that accompanies it. It's the starched white napkins. It's the glasses and silverware which have been polished to within an inch of their lives. It's, how everything is rearranged just so, how the whole theatre
The experience, the
of
chef coming out to
that
say
dining
hello to you.
experience, all of that sort of stuff, all of that stuff helps you tell that narrative in your mind when the bill comes, that actually, you know what, this was worth every penny. It's not just what you've eaten. It's all of these other things which contribute to the expectation level you've set before you've even walked into the place.
You know what I used to like to do at the office? I used to like to get customers to come in because I wanted to give them a tour of the facility. Number one, I was so proud of the facility that we created and how it was set up and the look and the feel. But I wanted them, as much as I wanted them to meet the operators, I wanted the operators to meet them. I wanted our customers to know who was making their stuff, how it was being made, and I wanted the makers and all the people working to meet the customers. Because when you introduce them all, and there's a good feeling, there's a feeling of pride on both sides. And then there's a thank you to each other, and then you go into that whole behavioral thing, and then they're there. I don't have to do anything. I sit back now that the pressman's met the owner and the owner's met the pressman, there's a kind of an understanding between them.
And why is that? Because now emotions got into the game. It's no longer a transactional relationship.
It's personal.
Exactly. It's not
right?
hard.
No.
We just need to look at the way that we ourselves experience buying decisions, and we are our own customers in that respect, but we don't listen to ourselves. We'd rather just sort of throw obstacles in the way and start talking about kit lists and
Yeah, I always say, try to remember how you want to be treated. Try to remember what you like when you're treated well, and then try to give it back in the same experience. And then the people you're with, give them a chance to hear and to learn. I mean, I was with a client at a print company. We're doing packaging, and the owner offered to take the client into the back and see the place. And the first reaction of the client was, well, I don't really have time. And well, there was a big kick under the table and a stare that said, like, let's fucking go. And he went, and it was all good. And I said to him after, I said, like, you were disrespectful. He wanted to show you his house. He wanted to show you where he's making your stuff. He wanted you to know where it was. At the same time, he wanted to know how many steps there were that were involved in the process, so that the customer could have an idea. And the customer
Absolutely,
said
yeah.
to me after, he goes, yeah, you're right, I apologize. I said, you always make the 5 minutes when you're asked something. You never say no. There's no reason to say no, and I just sit there. And to me personally, that stuff is second nature. Anytime I can get someone to walk in
No,
and
but it
see
is, it is,
something.
it is to you, and it is to many people, but it is not to a lot of others. And I think also what people who are listening need to understand is that there's no one size fits all recipe that
For
we can
anything.
segue into. What works for your competitor will probably not work for you, and nor should it, because the problem with aping what your competitor does, who's obviously been doing it longer than you have, is that the customers see what you're doing and they think of them instead of thinking of you. Right? So you need to find your own way. You need to be distinctive in the
100%.
eyes of your buyers. You need to have some kind of differentiation across a particular measurable metric that the customer sees as having value, and focusing just on that. And that's where you need to have someone who understands what marketing is about to help you do that, even if it's just to get you started and for you then to hand the keys of the car over for you to carry on. But you either onboard somebody who actually has experience, expertise, education in marketing at the very strategic level to put all of those pieces in place, or you get help from outside for those people to train whomever you've got handling your tactical marketing on an ongoing basis, and then sort of revisit them, put your head above the parapet every 3-6 months, whatever else, and sort of nudge the direction as you go. But you have to follow one or of those paths. You're not going to find the result on your own, because if you could, you would have done it by now.
Listen, I'm amazed at how many print companies have been in business for as long as they have, and might be doing well, making some money, family's grown, but haven't done anything to brand their business or to make it stand out. It just kind of falls into the strip mall,
Because
so to
they've never
speak,
had to.
with
They've never had
everybody
to. All
else.
this time, they've never had to. They've got on in spite of themselves, not because of themselves.
So, what would you say then are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, 6 things? What do you think companies that haven't done this before are maybe nervous about doing it? What should they do, or how should they start, or what should they think of? And what should they not be afraid of?
I think if they don't have the level of marketing expertise, strategic marketing expertise within their organization, right? I think they should either look to a external provider for a short term project to get things off the ground, or if they're adamant about doing these things themselves, it's all of these things start with at the same point. For us, a customer onboarding process starts the same way as pretty much any reputable marketing agency out there. It starts with diagnosis. It starts with what the hell is actually going on. And to find that out, it means speaking with customers, actually understanding what fires up, what are the triggers, and what are the drivers that get buyers to buy when they buy. If we can get in the head of our customers, we should be speaking to customers every single week to actually understand the problems that they're having. What's stopping them going home at 5:30 every night? There's a ton of things that are in their inbox which is preventing them doing that. Some of those things are directly attributable to the services that we can offer as printers. Some of them are only tangible. Okay. But either way, being able to actually understand what's going on in the mind of our customer helps us not only address the problems that they have today, but we can best position our offering for what's going to be bothering them tomorrow. Because you ask a customer and say, what should we do? The only thing a customer is going to say is whatever is blocking them today. They don't care about tomorrow. They just want whatever's holding them up today to go away. And tomorrow it'll be something else. But if we can actually understand the root cause of why they are where they are, we can anticipate what tomorrow, next week, next month, next year looks like, and introduce products, services, or just reframe things that we're already offering in ways which the customer can better understand and sell within their organization or to their customers, whereupon when they do get buy-in, we're in that consideration space when they are in market to buy.
Yeah, I remember. It makes me. Not only do I feel maybe a little old, but or cutting edge at the same time. We went through a whole program retransitioning who we were, and I at the time went out to the NAPL and I paid them to do a client survey and spent a lot of money, like in a few $1,000s to do it, and people would laugh or tell me, you're a little crazy or it's a lot of money. But I always thought that spending that money was really good because it's not me doing the survey. It's not me asking a customer. It's an outside group doing it. And when the customer gets a call, yeah, there's a few who don't care to give the time because they're just assholes and never do anything to better anybody. But it's amazing the amount of people that do respond to the call. And more amazing than that is the ones that comment to you after, like, what was that? And then when you really tell them that you're trying to better yourself and have a better understanding and build the right culture, they're just like smile comes to the face and they almost want to hug you because they're hearing you say what they want to say, that you should do or could do, but maybe don't know how, and that you're taking the initiative. I hear of very few companies that actually go out to get real feedback from customers.
I think in the past, pricing was a barrier for the smaller organizations. Without a doubt, pricing was a barrier to do these sorts of surveys. Today, that's no longer an excuse. But also, I think it's something you mentioned in there, which I think is very important, is that having a third party asking those questions and getting that feedback allows the customer to be more honest with them than they would with you. Because the problem with customer surveys, anything like that where you're asking feedback, is that many customers will tell you what they want, what they think you want to hear, rather
Or they
than
don't want to insult
the
you
truth.
in a paper.
Right. Whereas if there's an intermediary, they're generally more open and honest. And I also think that you should, anything like these feedback type exercises shouldn't be used in isolation. They should be used as a guide with other customer insights or data that you can get from analog means, from digital means, whatever else, and use that to either confirm or question the veracity of the data that you're getting from other places. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket and expecting results, because I don't think you can do that. And also, I think it depends on the channel, because customers are often more receptive or more inclined to be more open on certain channels than on others. And since there's no one size fits all, the only way to get a healthy aggregation of data is to use a number of different channels.
And I think the best place, or the feedback you get, the place where it's used best, is with your staff. in sit-down
Absolutely.
conversations, in non-emotional conversations, and saying, we just spent $8,000 to hire a firm to go out. These are the questions. You don't necessarily have to name the name of the customers to keep everybody, no finger pointing if there's good stuff or bad stuff. And then anyone in the room who doesn't want to hear what the customer has to say shouldn't be part of your company. There's so many exercises that, if they can't be changed, I'm saying, but there's so many benefits that come from so many different exercises that help you actually clean up along the way. Because you can't, it's a whole other conversation, but you can't have the wrong people on your staff either, because it's like rowing up the river after.
It sort of brings back the subject of that customer relationship stuff that we talked about earlier on. If you're a print equipment vendor, okay, why is it more often than not that when an existing customer is looking to buy a piece of equipment or upgrade their existing equipment, they're more inclined to speak to the engineer or their customer services rep than they are speaking to a salesman, right? Because they feel they're going to get an honest, unbiased answer from a CSR, from an engineer, right? Because they know if they ask a salesperson, they're just going to say, well, yes, of course you need to buy it, right? So in which case, why is the engineer, CSR, whomever contact that is, why aren't they incentivized and or rewarded at the point of securing that sale? Not necessarily at the same level, but having some kind of objectives and remuneration package that reflects the level of connection and authority and influence they have had in securing that sale.
That's easy. The system's broken and nobody sat down to really look at actually how it works. If I look at a restaurant, in the old days, the restaurants, the servers kept all the tips. If I look at restaurants today, that is not the case. In most restaurants, especially the good ones where there's everything gets pooled, everything's broken down into a point system. The dishwasher walks away with a good chunk at the end of the night feeling good. Why? Because if you don't treat him right, he's not washing your dishes and you're not getting big tips as a server. We are everything today is a team. Even if you're a doctor, if you're a fire person, if you're a graphic artist, you don't do it alone. Everything's teamwork. But not everybody thinks in terms of team and one helping the other. Right? It's I think about some of the OEMs in print, from what I hear on the road is they want them to push all this extra color and toner. And the salespeople don't get commissions on the toner they sell. So they're not really motivated to sell toner. I would have tied the toner and the sale of the equipment into one so that they would be motivated and have to keep going. But it's crazy that I, in my position, hear those stories. Right?
I think it's also to do with the way that the package is structured, right? Because from a sales perspective, you're often working on a 30, 60, 90
Correct.
forecast, right? And anything longer than 90 days is not something that you can quantify, but still potentially needs nurturing. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to lose that perhaps today lukewarm lead to a competitor simply because they haven't had anybody from your organization contact them for
Yeah. Anyways, you know what? The OEM, that's a whole other world. We don't have to go. Let's go back to behavior. No, so we've been going on here for a little bit. So really, if you had to give a few quick things to the nervous print owner, the owner who hasn't done anything in a long time or ever, what would you say to him to entice him to investigate, to look? And what are the short-term things maybe that he should, take it, perk his ears up to and maybe, go into, ask a question more or two?
I don't think this is something that many print business owners can handle internally. I really think they need to have external help. That doesn't mean it has to be crazy expensive, and it doesn't have to be something that's long term. But I think the first step is to admit that, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting, as Stephen Covey said, right? So something needs to change. So if there is an acknowledgement that change needs to happen, it starts with reaching out and speaking to trusted external providers, perhaps ones that can be recommended within your network. LinkedIn's a good place to start. If you're in the US, the American Marketing Association is a good place to start. There are if you're looking purely online, there are various verified websites such as clutch.co, which gives you a good starting point. And have those initial conversations. Outline exactly the business outcome that you're looking the marketing to achieve. And if you're worried about going down the road of the wrong type of provider, if you're asking business questions and the response you're getting is tactical, they're talking about ads and blogs and videos and
get out,
all that sort of stuff, they are not the right people that you should be talking with, because all of that stuff comes way down the road. Okay, you have to do your homework first. It all starts much further upstream. Once you get all of that stuff in place, then you can do all the tactical stuff. And once you have a clear briefing document, the whole thing can sort of run almost autonomously. But the strategic stuff, which is going to be unique to your business and your business alone, can't be automated. You can't do this stuff with AI. You can't do this stuff with a recipe that's been used 100 times before for 100 different companies. It's unique to you as a business. It's a reason why customers choose to do business with you as opposed to doing something else. And that's what we need to dig out and nurture and water and bring to the fore and flourish.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. We're going to end it on that one because I think people are all sitting there thinking in their heads they got to do something. So first of all, for anybody who's listened to the show, and I hope you have, and there'll be clips put out that hopefully you'll grab onto, you could reach out to me anytime you want for a conversation. I've been down the road. I'm out there trying to help people. I'm trying to bring people like G on to the show so that you could hear from people that are out there that aren't connected or pitching you or trying to do anything like that. Although I'm sure if you call G, he'd be happy to do the work for you. But all kidding aside, reach out to me for a conversation. I'm trying to promote printers doing more to help themselves. It doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be that hard. And I'm even willing to put a couple printers in different areas together, and maybe we could work it together and everyone could kind of even maybe participate in the cost, and we make it, individual for each person. Again, I'm just trying to think of ways out of the box to help people start somewhere. I don't know what the end will be. Wow, G, behavioral science. We're going to have more conversations because I had written down a few more questions that I couldn't ask because time would go on and on and on. But
let's do part two. Love to.
Oh, 2 and 3, because I think printers, you need to understand that your business is not printing. It's doing business. And when you do business, one of the services you offer is printing. So you just have to learn to change it up a little. I want to help people change their websites. I want to help you talk about what your solutions are for your customers. Your website shouldn't talk about you. Anybody on LinkedIn, just my final thing is, again, should talk about what you can do for someone. No one cares where you went to school, how much experience you have, and that you call yourself a leadership person. People in leadership don't say that. They just lead. Right?
Absolutely. Sure.
G, any final words to the audience before we go?
I just hope it sort of motivated somebody to take some action, because, we can't carry on doing what we're doing. We need to change things. I think the industry is depending on that.
and it's a great industry. All right, we're ending on that note. Warren Werbit, printing's alive. I love print, and we will see you again. Cheers.